Pierre Poilievre is back at it again, absolutely grilling Mark Carney. You know, all this Mark Carney guy seems to do is make announcements and have meetings and talk about how great things are going to be. But yet we're not seeing any results. And people keep saying, well, it hasn't been that much time. Well, he's been Prime Minister for 14 months. You'd think you'd see something happening, right? Apparently not. You'd think we'd see a trade deal, right? Nah. Well, Pierre Poilievre says no more announcements or re-announcements, which they've also been caught doing. Re-announcing projects that have already been announced under Trudeau that just never got started. So we're going to have a look at this clip here, and I have a couple more to show you as well, so make sure you stick around. Also, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps grow the channel, and I appreciate you guys so much for that. Let's have a look, and then we'll talk about it.
More of the same. He's just another Liberal. We saw that today when he re-announced the same electricity plan that the Liberals have used over the last decade to jack up the cost of power bills by 35% and give us the first electricity shortage in our country's history. For the first time ever, under this Liberal government, we had to import American electricity just to keep the lights on because we couldn't make enough our own, even though we have the most rivers, the most uranium for nuclear power, and the cheapest natural gas. Because of Liberal taxes and red tape, they blocked us from making the electricity we need. And today, the same policies of industrial carbon taxes, anti-development laws, and delayed permits were re-announced as if we get a different result than the last 10 years. We don't need to repeat the same mistakes. The same goes with pipelines and energy. Tomorrow, we'll find out how much Mark Carney wants to raise the industrial carbon tax, a tax that adds to the cost of home building by driving up the cost of cement, concrete, glass, aluminum, and steel, that adds to the cost of food by taxing the very farm equipment and fertilizer that's necessary to make it. My view is that the industrial carbon tax should be zero. We should have no tax on our energy and our production. And as for a pipeline, we want to see it happen. We're holding out hope. We want one built. So far, there's no permit.
There will never be a pipeline built under Mark Carney, just so you know. Look, all Mark Carney needs to do in his mind is just, look, I just need to fool people for 3 more years. And because Canadian voters are often idiots, it's not that hard to do. I can just say nice things, I can sound good, keep calm, and just keep blaming Donald Trump and all the conservatives for everything, and then it's going to work. And then even if it starts to fall apart after year 2 or in the middle of year 3, it's fine, because I'm going to be filthy rich, even more so than he already is. Then he's going to go back to Europe anyway. I really don't see Mark Carney running in the next election, and that's likely when the Liberals are going to get absolutely destroyed. Unfortunately, we need to go through more pain first. I don't understand why Canadians want to do that, but it's what they've chosen. It's what we're going to have to live with.
No route, no Indigenous consultation, no starting point, no end point, no construction date, no nothing. Just a lot of announcements and re-announcements. So we want Prime Minister Carney to announce tomorrow that he will permit a pipeline to the Pacific within 100 days of getting Alberta's application, and that pipeline will be under construction before this Christmas. Let's get building a pipeline now.
That's very wishful thinking, Pierre, but it ain't happening. But I'm not criticizing Pierre for calling out Carney, because that's his job. And Carney should be called out for his massive levels of just, not even incompetence, it's just, hey, here's some announcements, and here's some more re-announcements, and hey guys, ready for another announcement? It's like, god damn, dude. Enough of this. Get things done. This was supposed to be the most consequential election of our lifetimes, he said. Well, that means if the wrong person was chosen, really bad things would happen. Well, all the things that suck here in Canada are still happening. The only thing he's actually done is steal Pierre's ideas and give out another rebate that I guess we're getting in June. Just silliness. Pierre put out another video. We have the projects, the workers, the resources. So what's stopping us? Well, we all know. But let's hear what Pierre has to say here.
Why can't we get anything built in Canada? Why is it that with the fourth biggest supply of oil beneath our feet, we have to import from Saudi Arabia and Nigeria? We have to give our raw oil to the US where they refine it and profit by sending it off to the world because we can't build our own pipelines? Why is it that with the most prodigious rivers for hydro, the fourth biggest supply of uranium for nuclear, and cheap natural gas for power plants, we still can't even produce enough electricity to supply our own needs, let alone profit from selling it abroad? Why is nothing getting built? Is it because we have no projects? Well, the answer is no. There's 500 projects that are waiting for federal approval under the impact assessment system, and there's 275 of those where the proponent has sought expedited approval. So there are projects to build. Are there workers? Well, it turns out Stats Canada says there's 107,000 unemployed Canadians whose most recent job was in construction. So we have the workers. Is there investment? Well, also according to Statistics Canada, we have, as Canadians, $1.33 trillion of our pension money invested abroad. Even though the pension fund managers say they want to bring it home and build things in our country, they can't find projects that are approved that can make money, so they create jobs in other countries. Do we have the resources? What a silly question. Of course, we have the most resources per capita of any country in the world. In other words, we have projects, the workers, the investment, the resources. What do we lack? Fast, safe permits. Permission to build. Federal permission in the case of all these projects over here. Now, it used to be that we could approve things safely and carefully while protecting public safety and the environment and letting things get done. Under the Harper government during the Great Global Recession, we allowed 23,500 projects to go from concept to completion in just 2 years. This is to include the idea, the announcement, the approval, the workers doing the work, and the project being fully launched and in total use. But since that time, we haven't been getting anything done. What is standing in the way? The federal government's laws and taxes. We have, for example, the industrial carbon tax. And then that makes it basically uneconomical for large industry to carry out the projects. Then you've got C69. C69, it kind of works like this. It is a meandering, confusing maze of changing rules with recalcitrant bureaucrats also facing political interference from the Liberal cabinet that prevent things from getting done. Ultimately, it is as ugly as my handwriting. And if you doubt how bad this law is, the Pipeline Association says that there will not be another major oil pipeline built in this country as long as C69 is in place. With it, we have the second slowest permits in the OECD. It takes up to 19 years to get a mine approved, and even Mark Carney agrees that this system that was brought in by the Liberal government does not work because he says that we need a system to go around it while keeping it in place. He passed a bill called C5, which creates this office. It's a major projects office. And that allows any of the projects he picks to go around the regulations that all the others might follow. But here's the problem. So far, he's only picked about 15 out of the 500, and none of those 15 actually have a permit a year after he promised that he would build the unimaginable at speeds not seen in generations, the now famous quote. So ultimately, he proposes to keep in place all of the rules and taxes that block things from going ahead, and use a law that goes around the previous law in order to get some things done. Ultimately, by virtue of the fact that he has this roundabout, this workaround, he admits that this system is neither workable nor necessary to protect our economy and our environment. So I have a bit of a different approach. Now be careful. You're going to be shocked. It's highly simplistic. So a lot of the very sophisticated people in Ottawa's bureaucracy and elite will not like it. But here it is. You have projects that get fast, simple, safe permits with no carbon tax. That's the system we had before. It kept us safe, it created jobs, it built things in this country. There were fewer consultants, lobbyists, lawyers, bureaucrats, and other insiders feeding off the system, but the projects went from concept to completion more quickly. I know it's simplistic, but as they taught us in elementary school, the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line.
I mean, it's so simple. You'd think it would, man, even an idiot could understand that. So how come all these educated people, I mean, look at Mark Carney, right? Oxford, Harvard. Why doesn't he understand something that elementary students can understand? Or maybe it's that he does understand it, but he's trying to, delay the process, say good things to make people happy while never actually getting anything done, because that's the whole plan in the first place, to not get anything done. Well, not for you and me. Himself and his buddies, sure. That's who he's going to work for. That's why everything seems so complicated. Because everyone's got to get their piece of the pie. And then when they're all done, when all the fat cats are finished eating, there's nothing left for us. And that's how it always is with these liberal governments. It's absolutely ridiculous. It needs to change. But people decided, hey, we're going to vote for more pain first, so that's what we're going to get. And lastly, one more from Pierre Poilievre. The CEO of Cenovus says Carney's industrial carbon tax makes Canada uncompetitive. That means we get fewer Canadian jobs, less energy security, and fleeing investment because of his obsession with high liberal taxes. Signed to join Conservatives scrap Carney's industrial carbon tax, unblock Canadian energy now. There's a link here if you want to go over to Pierre's X account and sign that. You're more than welcome to. And let's have a look at what this guy has to say.
Our industry is nothing. We are the only country among the 10 largest producers globally that has a carbon tax. And the carbon tax for our industry is nothing more than a cost. It doesn't incent us to decarbonize. It is solely a cost of doing business. So when you think about what we intended to do with the carbon taxes, it really works when it's globally applied, and that can be passed on to the consumer. The consumer sees the higher cost of the product that they're consuming, and they consume less of it, and you get the price signal going back to the producer who produces less. What we've done is we've put a carbon tax on in Canada that is solely born in Canada, and we compete in the global market. So the products that we sell get a global price, so we're not able to pass that along to the consumer. So there's a breakage of the linkage in terms of what the policy was intended to do and what it actually does. So it's simply a cost of doing business that has to be incorporated into any investment decision. But we have that, plus we have the tanker ban, plus we have clean electricity regulations, plus we have methane regulations, and all of this is just combined to make an incredibly complicated policy framework that makes investment in Canada difficult and non-competitive with other countries like the U.S. and countries in Asia.
You see, higher taxes makes Canada less of a lucrative market. Of course, you're going to rather invest in Mexico, in the U.S., in countries in Asia. Why would you come here? But the Liberal government keeps telling everybody that no, people want to invest here, and we brought in 100 million or 100 billion, whatever the number is, but they won't tell you how much investments we've lost, and it's double what we brought in. But they'll leave that part out. And everyone thinks the sun is shining bright and it's beautiful out here in Canada, and we got this prime minister who's going to stick it to Donald Trump. All Mark Carney has stuck to Donald Trump were compliments. Except for when he's not around him, then he talks crap about him. This dude's a snake, and if he's such a good negotiator, let's get the deal done. Let's start negotiating. Trump has the leverage. We don't. He should know that. So let's get a deal done, Mark.